Welcome, everyone, to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. This is a solo episode. This is going to be episode 316. And I'm going to be talking about three things. This is going to be all political, and this is going to be all state. I'm going to I am going to talk about so much states. Before we get to that, I'm going to talk just briefly about the New York City mayoral race, where the odds are. According to Kelsey Market has a bold prediction. Well, it's not really bold. It's sadly very predictable. Because if you haven't been paying attention, you know who's the front runner. As a front runner coming from someone who is a relatively newcomer in the political scene. Zoran Mamdani, if you ever heard of him. I'm going to talk about what's the odds of him winning. And I'm going to share you my sources so you know that I am not just talking out of my butt. And I'd like to give you some stats and articles before I get deeper into it. So I'm going to talk about just the odds of that. I didn't watch too much of the second NYC general mayoral debate because at this point, I just don't see the point. There's good debate, hash out the ideas, attack each other. There's a clear front runner about that. And let me get the predictable part out of the way. Let me just show you what Kelsey has to say. And it's a good thing I met and know someone who works in Kelsey. I am not going to say his name, but shout out to that person. You know who you are, okay? And I'm just going to say this. The story is very telling. Very, very telling. And as of right now, Zoran Mamdani is that blue line on top. His odds of winning are, as of now, during the recording of the night of October 24th, his odds of winning is at 92%. Andrew Cuomo's at 7%, and Kersley was at 2%. And if you want to bet responsibly, okay? Zoran Mamdani will be your safe pick. He'll be a safe pick. And you already know about Eric Adams. He dropped out. He supports Cuomo. That bumps up Cuomo's points by a little bit. It only shrinks Zoran Mamdani's lead by not by much. Not by much. Remember at one point that Zoran Mamdani was ahead of Cuomo at 25 points. Then it went down to roughly 20. Now it's about 13 points that Zoran Mamdani is ahead of Andrew Cuomo. And Sliwa, well, he had a bit of a bump. He's like, 15% to 19. And Cuomo, I think, had the biggest benefit from Eric Adams dropping out. Of course, Eric Adams support him. How predictable. But I'm going to say this, and let me close that. I want to say this, and I'm happy some articles are finally saying this. I've been saying this for months. The longer Eric Adams and Sliwa stays, the better it is for Mamdani to win. Well, those two will drop out sooner. Well, Eric Adams dropped out a few weeks ago. Now we have, Sliwa, he refuses to drop. And that's good for Mamdani. If Sliwa would have dropped, I think Andrew Cuomo's chances of victory would have increased. Hypothetically, he could have been only 5 points behind, which is striking distance to overperform, according to the polls, and beat Zoran Mamdani. But as long as Sliwa stays, well, Zoran Mamdani is going to win, and Kelsey is correct. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. Look, I think one of the few policies that's going to go through if Zoran Mamdani's mayor is the rent freezes. I could see that being a big possibility, but the free buses, the city-run groceries, I'm just not so sure about that. If he's as charismatic as he is good in execution, then it's a possibility. But we'll see. And I'm just going to say this. The victor of this mayoral election It's not going to be by the majority. The majority of people are not fans of a lot of these candidates. This mayor is going to have his challenges for the next year already laid and inherited. The affordability crisis. I call it popularity crisis because he's going to win by polarity, not by majority. So the moderate Dems, I won't be surprised they're going to try to be slick, become an obstacle against Mamdani. And we're going to see. Just because he becomes mayor doesn't mean he's going to be able to implement all his policies. It's just not going to happen. Like I said, the rent freeze one is the most probable. And how much those rent freezes? It won't be kicking in until next year, anyways. And he needs to put people that are gonna support his agenda. Just because the mayor points them, there's times that that one or two board members could defect, or a majority of them could defect. That's always a possibility. So if Zoran wants to get that rent freeze going, he has to vet these people well. Okay. That's what I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to talk too much about the New York City mayoral race. I normally focus on state and federal. Okay. And I want to talk about the redistricting, the whole gerrymandering fight that's been going on between the states. This is blue states versus red states here. And I'm going to start backwards. Nah, let's start forward. I'll change my mind there. So California, that's been leading the counterattack against the Texas gerrymandering. Okay. Texas started this when they proposed their congressional districts redrawn, and hypothetically, Texans, especially the Republicans, should be able to pick up to 5 seats. Hypothetically speaking, up to 5 seats. And Gavin Newsom here, I'm not going to read all of this, but just to put this in short, he's countering this with a proposal that Democrats could hypothetically take 4 to 5 seats. So the hypothetical is that, Texas is supposed to become more red, California is supposed to become more blue. That's possible in some states, but not in all of them. And, and Florida is going to try to create their own version of it as well, their own redistricting, and they should be able to gobble up 5 seats for the Democrats. J.B. Pritzker, when they do the little redistricting, J.B. Pritzker proposes a redrawn that's supposed to get 1 extra Democrat seat, but experts says, well, that's the best it's going to get. They doubt that they could get an additional seat in Illinois. Illinois is already very blue as it is, right? So I don't think they could do much just to make it more Republican or Democrat. I mean, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And where Indiana, it's a bit more interesting. There's infighting among Republicans on that one. So I don't know if it's going to go through or not. But J.D. Vance is ready he already advocated for this. We'll see what's going to happen. And we'll see if Indiana agrees to it. There's a little bit of disagreement there. And Kansas, they want to do their gerrymandering as well. And they could bypass the Democratic governor, Laura Kelly. And Republicans who got 2 majority in both chambers. And I have told people this before. Just because one is governor, one is president, it doesn't mean they have all the power. It just doesn't work that way. They just doesn't work that way. So they could bypass. When a governor or president vetoes, once you have the supermajority override that veto, that's it. There's nothing they could do. But there's some moderate Republicans from some districts that are not very, they're not going to support this gerrymandering thing, and they tend to provoke judicial scrutiny. You don't want that. Louisiana, well, if they do their version, right, and they just pick up one more seat. Maryland is thinking about doing their own, just get rid of that one Republican as their Congress, Andy Harris. He's the only Republican House representative there in Maryland. So the states is just gonna become more red and more blue, and for Congress. In Missouri, they have rejected the Republican redistricting. Okay. But they're still fighting back with it. They pass it anyways after some back and forth. And let's just say that Missouri, they just gonna eliminate probably that they could probably eliminate one Democrat seat that's in Kansas City, Missouri. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, it's only going to be one seat that's safe for a Democrat. See, Missouri District 5 right here. See the current? It's -12. That means it favors Democrats. With their proposal, it'll become +8, which means it favors Republicans. And so Democrats got negative numbers and Republicans got positive numbers. That's how it works. These maps, okay? Yep, and this is going to determine they may scoop up a few seats in Long Island. Nassau, I could see them do that. I'm not too sure about Sussex County, but I could see them pull that off with Nassau, because Nassau is already it's a moderate county. And then let's go to North Carolina. North Carolina has proposed their version of the redistricting. It has passed through the state Senate. Now it's in consideration for the House. Let's see what we can do about that. And Ohio regularly goes through this. So they may be able to get rid of some Democrats if they pass it through a Republican-controlled Ohio government. They might take 3 more seats if it's successful. I already talked about Texas. I'm not going to go into that. They could theoretically take 5 seats. Utah, it's a little interesting. Let's see if the courts are going to upheld this. There was some opposition with this as well. But their redistricting is a little different. And the reason I'm going to say that is because look at this here. Currently, it's pretty strong Republican, these 4 districts, right? And let me just actually share the screen. Let me share the screen. Look at these 4 districts. Utah, 1st District, 10 points favor Republicans. And Utah, the 4th District, 13 points favor Republicans. Now, this new proposal, I would say Utah districts 2 and 3 could become more competitive. +1, +3 favor Republicans, that's competitive. +14, +23, not really. And then finally, the state of Virginia, which I want to stop sharing, they may, with their redrawn districts, the Democrats may pick up 2 or 3 more seats. Actually, before I end this up, which party is favoring more so far? If you guess Republicans, you'd be correct, because with the proposed redistricting, it's going to favor Republicans by a little bit overall, not by much. As of now, 189 seats lean Democrat, 205 favor Republican, 41 are toss-up. And to have majority, you need 218. So it looks like Republicans got a bit of a head start there. So this is why understanding gerrymandering is very important. This is political parties controlling, manipulating districts to favor their party. Okay, they split them or make someone bigger, where it gives them the advantage, right? But they cannot change the number of seating unless they get the results from the census. If, for example, like let me use my state, New York. They have lost a congressional seat because they have less population in proportion to the general population of America. Okay, it's not that New York has population has increased. It's just Texas in particular has the largest population. They got 2 congressional seats. out of the 2020 census. So, yeah, and that's going to matter once you do the 2030 census. Make sure you fill them out because the bigger the delegation, the better it is for the state. So the largest states right now is, in this order, California, Texas, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, and Illinois. In terms of population, in terms of congressional seats, those are the 6 largest states. Okay, so that's why it's important to talk about the gerrymandering. I haven't got the time to do that because I only talked about it with one guest. I'm going to give a shout out to this person, the Honorable Michael Butler, and he brought up this good point. I'm going to reiterate it again because I just think it needs to be reiterated. That just because they do these gerrymandering manipulations doesn't mean it's going to always give them an advantage. Utah is one example that it kind of weakens the Republicans' leads on the 2nd and 3rd congressional districts. They became more competitive for Democrats to take. I think they're doing it just more out of fairness, unlike all the other ones. All the other ones were just clearly partisan. At least with California, and I'm going to get into this. This is a good segue for it. For Proposition 50, they're letting the people vote on should the congressional districts be redrawn. If enough people say yes, and it looks like I think it's gonna pass. It with a decent margin, maybe like 60% of people will support it, maybe 60, 65. If I'm gonna have a moderate guess. And this is the final thing I'm going to share because there are propositions you're going to vote for, and not all states have this. And some of them already happen, but I'm going to focus more on the ones that are coming on November 4th. Okay. And all right, so let's look at California again. Proposition 50, allow the state to use a new legislation drawn map, congressional map for 2026 through 2030. So yeah, this is for next year. Colorado, you have two propositions, Propositions LL and Proposition MM. Proposition LL says it allows the states to keep $212.4 million in excess revenue and interest from the reduced state income tax deductions of the Proposition FF that was passed in 2022 to provide money for healthy school meals for all programs. So it came out healthy meals. My kids get a government funded meal. Well, that sounds like a Democrat proposal. I think that's going to pass. And then Proposition MM, I don't know why they do double letters like that. It reduced income tax deduction for taxpayers earning $300K or more to generate additional revenue for healthy school meals for all programs once the program is funded with reserves for SNAP. Okay, and Louisiana have their amendments on March 29th. Well, they rejected all of them. Maine, you're gonna have your propositions, your ballot initiatives, and we got question 1 and 2. Require voters to present voter identification as well as making changes to absentee voting and use of ballot drop boxes. I will support that. And then for question 2. Establish a process to obtain an extreme risk protection order. I will support these two. And in New York, my state, now you have one state proposition. Authorize the state use up to 323 acres of forest to preserve the land at the Mount Van Hoovenberg Olympic Sports Complex. Cape Brown Sports. Well, especially it's not going to happen in the city. Well, there's your chance to have one. And then Texas have a ton of ballot initiatives. Some for homesteads with disabilities, and then provide exemptions for improvements for those that have been destroyed by fire, and then some of judiciary. Yeah, you got bail reform, income tax, prohibited tax on unrealized capital gains of individual, family, estate, or trust. Yeah, so you got a lot of propositions flow through Texas. It's going to be a very busy time for Texas for this off ballot. And then Washington State allows long-term services and supports the trust fund to be invested in stocks. Interesting. In Wisconsin on April 1st of this year, they had a photo ID vote for, I always support ID, photo ID. I always support that. And for those who are not legal, well, become a citizen. Become a citizen of the United States of America. That's all I want to say. Just become a citizen. And then they got propositions 1 through 17. Yeah, so yes, 17 different propositions to vote for Texas. And I'm just going to read just some of them. Oh, one of them is provide parents' right to exercise care, custody, control of the parent's kid, including right decisions concerning the child's upbringing. Okay, and then also they have Proposition 16, which amends the Texas Constitution to provide persons who are not citizens that cannot vote. Okay, so they're really enforcing that people who are not citizens cannot vote. Yeah, so this is laws regarding homestead laws, and then property taxes prohibit state legislature enacted on imposing taxes on descendants' property or transfer the state. Interesting. So it's a whole bunch of stuff going on with that. This is an off year, odd numbers are off year, so it's not that much propositions. I'm sure during midterms and even presidential years, they'll put propositions in there. And check your local governments, people. Check your local governments to see if they got their own ballot initiatives. I know New York City has theirs that mainly relates to housing and even having voting align in New York City mayor with the president. I'm not sure it's going to affect more voter turnout. I mean, the proponents of it will say, well, it reduces voter fatigue, while the criticism is, well, the New York City mayoral race may overshadow the presidential race, which it's already true. So, well, let's see if it passes through or not. I mean, I'm certainly might vote for it to see if it's going to make a difference or not. I'm just curious. I'm voting out of curiosity, me personally. Yeah, I mean, that's all. This is going to be a shorter episode than usual because my talk, I get more straight to the point. And these episodes are generally short. They're about 30 minutes long in general. And all I'm going to say, people, make sure you pay attention to your candidate, research their record, what they have done. Don't go by what they say. Go by what they have done, okay? Because people could sound really good. Mamdani, great debater, decent orator, compared to Andrew Cuomo and Sliwa, but his policies, some are, I don't know. And I mean, they did free city buses and it worked in Kansas. So some of them I doubt they're going to work. I'm just going to be honest. I just doubt they're going to work. Andrew Cuomo, who's been in politics for all his life, yeah, he seems like a safe, more predictable choice. But he's also backed by billionaires, so if you worry about that, well, don't vote for Cuomo. And Sliwa, my personal favorite, he has no shot at winning this, let's just be real. I like Sliwa. It pains me to say that, but he has no shot. I thought he had a better shot at last mayoral election for 2021, and I did vote for Sliwa because to me he was a better candidate than Eric Adams, but since it's a blue city, and they're gonna vote Eric Adams. Even some people don't like him. I said, well, a lot of you don't like him, but why do you vote for him? Just because he's a Democrat? Oh, so all Democrats good and all Republicans are bad? No, and I would disagree if it was flipped the other way around, that all Republicans are good and Democrats are bad. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. And yeah, I mean, what I'm going to say is look forward to additional episodes. I'm going to give you some teasers right now because they're going to be coming out the pipeline. So I might as well talk about these episodes while we are at it. And now I'm not going to share or spoil anything. I'll tell you right now is that we're going to have definitely another tech episode coming out tomorrow. And then we're going to have the state of education with the Gorilla Scholar. That's going to come out this Sunday. So the recording this is October 24th. You'll get it in a few days. And then I'm going to have another episode. It's going to be released on November 7th with Nathan Smolenski. And we talk about this, how to engage and how can independents, thrive during this hyper-partisan times. Then after that, I'm going to have my own tech episode. They always tend to be short. I'm going to find out what's an interesting topic. I'm going to look into tech. I don't think I talked about healthcare enough. Don't hold me to that. I might want to do that. I don't think I've touched enough on that. And then we're going to have the Undoctor November 9th. Fred Moss. That was an interesting conversation. He got me thinking a bit differently. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to say too much about that. But those are your next upcoming 6 episodes. The tech one, tomorrow's one, I'm going to leave that a bit of a surprise. I like to throw some surprises at you. And if you think it's something else, feel free to comment. That's your only comment activity right there, okay? So that's my little tease to some of you. So episode 317 is going to be a tech episode. It's going to be a male. The question is it going to be white male or minority male? Well, you'll find out on the next episode. And another thing, and then for Sunday, it's going to be the state of education with the Gorilla Scholar. Okay. And then coming after that, it's going to be my conversation with Nathan Smolenski about what independence can do. Is it possible for independence to win? And how can you have a dialogue with disagreement and civility? Yep. I'm going to keep talking about this because I just think the temperature is still too damn hot right now. It really is. And look how the Republicans and Democrats acting with this gerrymandering thing. The Republicans are a little more egregious on this one. I'll agree with that much. But some of the Democrats are clearly no better. With the exception of California. I think California found the happy medium on that. They want to do it, but at least they leave it to the will of the people. Well, maybe they know their people would have done that. Maybe if they didn't trust their people, maybe they would have done it through state. That's the answer I'll never find out, right? I will never get that kind of answer. And again, and then it's going to be me. I think I'm going to talk about healthcare with AI. I haven't done a lot of AI. I'm happy I'm not doing that as much. AI is still such a big thing. But I think I need to do an episode on AI, and it's going to be an AI generated video. I'm just giving that heads up. It's not going to be like this. I don't know if you want authenticity or you want AI. Some of you prefer the AI videos, so I'm going to experiment here. And then the last one I'm going to tease for now is with the Undoctor, Fred Moss. Interesting conversation. He has a very interesting perspective about the psychiatry and humanity in general. Okay. So, alrighty then. That is it for me. Once you complete this audio or visual journey. No, actually forget that. Scratch that. There are things I want to push. 3 things. The new paper, free, short articles that are great to read, straight to the point, has no political slant. That's going to be a link in the bottom of this video. Oh, and the free website, guys. If you need a website for free to low cost, check these guys out. You'll be helping me out tremendously if you do that. And finally, join Podmatch. Just join Podmatch. It's such a great site, especially those of you who are thinking about making the podcast. There's even a community there if you're still on the fence about it. Podmatch people are pretty responsive. They're kind people overall, and look, you can just have your message there. You can have your customizable, very easy to set up one pager instead of going through the whole creating a PowerPoint and a Word document, and then you PDF the thing, you send it, and if there's updates or you made a mistake, you gotta do it again through through that software and send it again and it gets lost to the emails. Come on, let's be smart. Let's try Podmatch. It's a great network and they help you become a better podcaster as well. Without Podmatch, this podcast would have died. You want to know what year? It would have died 4.5 years ago. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding at all. 4.5 years ago. And I gotta say this, I thank Alex Sanfilippo and the Podmatch team for their great assistance. They are great. There's really no upsell. They're really good. I mean, this is coming from someone who has tried crappy things, and it's such a great site. And I met so much great guests from the site. Tina Irvin, Michael Anderson, and what else? Who has been amazing? Guy Morris. Hey, one of them used to be on Podmatch, but I get it. Some people just leave. Oh well. But all I'm gonna say is that it's a great. If you really want to if you're serious about becoming a better podcaster, or you want to just start a podcast, this is a great place to go because information is scattered and you could get lost very easily. You can. All right. That's all I'm going to say. Now, this is the real ending right here. So once you complete this visual or audio journey, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.